Hello and welcome, everyone. This is the last and final panel for our GM Roundtable. We've had four amazing panels so far. And today we are going to be discussing about table dynamics and how to communicate with players and making good tables and making everyone comfortable. Uh, so I am Ori. I will be the moderator today. I have been running D&D and other TTRPGs for about 4 years now. I've been in Desis for about a year now, I think, and I've run a few games here. I sometimes make TTRPGs, and I'm gonna ask the panel to introduce themselves. Nala, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hello. Hi, everybody. My name is Nala. I also go by Jay. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm on Twitter at NalaWoo and at NalaDraws if you'd like to see my art. And I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Indrani, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Indrani. My pronouns are she, they. I am one of the co founders of Desis&Dragons and just excited to be here. You can find me on the internet as at Nonagon Dice because I make handmade dice as well. I'm very bad at introducing myself, so I hope that's good.
That was amazing.
That was very smooth. Loved
Thank
it.
you. Thank you.
Also, my pronouns are they, them. There you go. I'm less smooth than you. That should make you feel better.
Thank
Christine, can you introduce
Hi,
yourself?
I can. I am Christine. I live in Seattle. My pronouns are she, her. I wear many hats. I work with Geek Girl Con and Big Bad Con and for Bully Pulpit Games. I have been running and playing in games for over 20 years now, and I absolutely love it. And I love introducing new people to the role playing sphere because it's something we all love.
Amazing. Agent P, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. I've been playing for D&D for around 2 years, and I joined Daisies about a year ago.
You're also a mod over here, so that's
Amazing. So smooth. 8-bit, do you want to go?
Hello, I'm 8-bit. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a mod here, and I've also written the wiki containing about safety tools, so I'm very excited to nerd about that as well. And I really like Wonder Home.
Just as a quick disclaimer, 8-bit is going to say Wander Home a lot. Just let it happen. It's nice. It's fun. Uh, okay, so getting into the panel. First of all, 8-bit. What according to you makes a table safe and welcoming, and what do you think GMs should do to achieve this?
That's a very important question. For me, a safe table is one that is comfortable and helps set a safe space for all participants, including the GM, to express their creativity without fear of uh, encountering uncomfortable topics. So I believe that safety in a table is not an individual thing. Your table's either safe or it isn't. Sometimes I've seen people say, like, okay, one or two of my players are uncomfortable, but the rest of them are having fun. So should I change things up? In my opinion, uh, if even one of your players is uncomfortable, that makes the entire table unsafe and kills what could have been an even more creative and enjoyable experience. So the best way for DMs or GMs to achieve safety is to use community made safety tools. Safety tools are basically things that make your table comfortable and a safe experience. There are a lot of myths surrounding safety tools. So, for example, people think that safety tools might censor the game or might limit their imagination, while I can argue that it's almost the opposite. Safety tools give you that net where you are able to go deep into very into topics that you might not have gone through before, like darker topics, topics that an average game might not tackle. But with safety tools, you're able to do that in a safe way. Also, another myth is that um, safety having safety tools is not necessary if you all are friends and know each other. Um, I would argue that even if you're all very good friends at the table, having uh, that um, protection or that standard, like anyone can use safety tools at any moment, makes it easier for people to voice that discomfort, because sometimes voicing discomfort is even more uh, or to say harder to do when you're among friends rather than with strangers. So yeah, that's my take on safety.
I think that's a really like succinct way of putting it. Um, there's so many different options out there for like how you want to tackle safety. It can be a little like um,
That's
it can.
actually a way to go to our next question. Everyone, tell me what your favorite safety tools are. We can start with Indrani.
I am a big fan of using lines and veils and X cards during the game. So lines and veils before the game, right? So we all establish our boundaries beforehand. We're like, this is what I'm comfortable with, and how comfortable with, if how comfortable I am with it. This is what's not okay, and everybody goes in with that information that you sent to your GM and like discuss and all of that. During the games, I like having X cards, which is just a sort of like stop, rewind, or retcon, whatever is uncomfortable in that moment. You raise your X card and deal with that particular situation. And something I really enjoy as a safety tool that for post games is I don't fully remember what it's called. I think it's called stars and something, but what
Stars and
we
wishes.
And wishes, yeah.
yes, that
Yeah.
right. Where we talk about what did I really enjoy in the game, what do I want out of it. And another thing I usually have with my games is what is something that someone else did that I really enjoyed watching. So like we can sort of discuss what we're looking forward to, and also what we are doing that other people at the table like appreciate and enjoy. So we know and learn about each other's preferences and hopes and goals from the game as we play the game. So I think that post um, game conversation is not necessarily something that's talked about as much in safety tools, but I really find it useful. So
Very
that's
valid, yeah. Christine, you were saying something?
Oh no, I was just agreeing that all of
Ah,
those tools that she had mentioned work really well, especially the I find that not highlighting a player, but like going around the table and saying like, what is one thing that stuck out to you? Because it makes new
mm,
players feel really welcome to go, oh, I didn't know that you guys noticed I did that thing. And it kind of helps bring new players out of the shells that they have sometimes. And,
yeah, it's always
really
good to like
encouraging a safe space. I'm sorry.
exactly. No, no, no. Please go on. No, it's always good to like encourage new players and new GMs actually. Like if
Mhm.
GM did something cool, it's always like good to tell them that it was awesome.
Yeah.
Anyone want to chime in, or we can go further?
Um, they haven't been mentioned yet, so I thought I would mention them. One of my
Please.
favorite tools, and the tool that has made me feel safe consistently at tables that I play at, are the X, N, and O cards. Um,
Mm.
if you don't know what those are safety tools that are to be used during gameplay. The X card, it kind of goes along with lines and veils. But if during the game you're getting uncomfortable and you need a certain topic to stop happening, or if the GM or another player brings up a plot point that you're not okay with, you can use your X card. And some people, if you play in person, have a literal card on the table that has an X on it that you can reach over and you can tap it physically with your hand. If you're playing online, some people verbally say X card to X that content out of the game, or in a chat with all the players and the GM, you can type an X to X card something. And that basically means you've crossed a line, and the GM or other players who introduced that topic will basically back up, stop the game, retcon, make sure that everyone is okay, and then you can discuss as a group how to move forward. The N card basically sort of like the yellow light. It's sort of like, this is getting close to a line for me, so can we fade to black? And then the O card is mostly used as a check-in for streamed games specifically, where the GM or another player might type an O question mark into the chat, and it's sort of like a check-in, like, are you okay? How is that? How are you doing? How are you feeling? And then other players will respond O if they're okay, or they can respond N or X. And I really like, specifically the O card. I really, really love this check-in tool. I was playing in a game of Urban Shadows 2nd edition, and it was a streamed game. And my GM for that, like every 5 minutes, it felt like, would always ask us, are you doing okay? Even if no one was visibly upset, even if, the role play was good and we were all just like going, they consistently would check in on us and type O question mark in the chat to make sure we're all feeling okay. And this GM was the first GM I've ever had who would do that consistently throughout our game, and that made me feel so safe. Even though nothing happened in that game that was bad, it just made me feel so safe. So that's why this is my favorite.
That's awesome. It's actually one of my favorite things as well. X cards just give GMs like a little bit of, peace of mind while they're running something. Like sometimes you just don't know if players have a tool that just tells you like, okay, this isn't okay. At least I don't have to constantly think, oh, is this okay? Am I seeing it okay? Am I doing this okay? Kind of a anxiousness as well. That's a great way to go to our next question. How do you prep for session 0, and what do you aim from session 0? Nala, do you want to take this?
Yeah. So the reason I wanted to take this question is because I just had a session 0 over the weekend for it's actually going to be my streamed GM debut. So I'm very excited. I GM like for home games like all the time, but I've never GM'd on stream before. So this will be my first one. And for this session 0, what I basically did beforehand, I'm going to be running a pre-written adventure. So I read the book several times to get an idea of what the adventure I'm running is going to be like. I put together a Lines and Veils sheet for my players. There are lots of different ways that I've seen people in this space put together Lines and Veils. Some people send out a Google form that you fill out. Some people fill out, they have like a shared document that you type into. The version that I prefer is basically a shared Google Sheets that has listed a lot of common lines and veils, and there's a series of checkboxes, and you can check line, what are the options? Line, veil, ask first, or interested. And when you check a line, it blacks out the rest of the checkboxes to let everyone know that someone has lined this, and you can't even check the other checkboxes. And so there's a lot of different sections in this Lines and Veils sheet. I've been told that it's very comprehensive, which feels good to hear, because sometimes the reason I prefer giving my players a list of things to check off of versus asking them to type their own in means that you can read through this list and you might see things that might bother you or give you the icks that you didn't even think about before. So this particular sheet, I separated all of the topics into different categories. So there's bigotry and abuse, which includes things like transphobia, racism, slavery, ableism, assault, etc. There's a relationship section to see, are you okay with PC romance or PC NPC romance, or betrayal, stuff like that. Then there's the Gore and Violence section, everybody's favorite, which just has a lot of commonly, like gore items like torture scenes, harm to children, self-harm, immolation, etc. Then we have the ickies, which is like bugs, basically, sickness and death, stuff like pandemics, terminal illness, alcoholism, freezing to death, and then so people can just like check off this, and then there's a sidebar on the side for people to make notes if they want notes. I'm happy to share this document after this. Someone please ping me and
Please
remind
do.
me, but I will send
Yeah, of
a
course.
link to this, a version of this that you can make a copy of and then use for your own players.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
And then also on the
Um,
right side of this, I have a spot for player wishes, because this is also the part where I ask my players, what do you want to see out of this game? What do you want me to do? And then I can, start thinking about that stuff early. But anyways, I send this document out to my players even before the session 0, and I ask them, can you fill this out before the session 0? And then during the session 0, the first thing I go over is this document. So we go through it together, and we make sure that everyone's on the same page. And the reason we go over it together is because when an individual person goes in and fills this document out, the document may have changed since the last time they have viewed it. So that's why we go through it together. And then after we're done going through this document, we go through the player wishes, and I'm always checking in, seeing if, let them know that this document is a living document, and they can always come back and change things, edit things, add more lines, add more wishes, and that I, as a GM, are going to be checking this document before we play and before every session, just to make sure that I am aware of what topics to avoid, because safety is very important.
Yeah,
And then the rest of the
that's
session 0, I just talk about, and this is why I read the book beforehand, so I can talk about the basic plot, we can talk about plot hooks, and then we can make characters. That was a very long-winded explanation of how I prep for
no,
session 0,
that was
It was good though.
that
Yeah.
was so good.
that's basically
I
what I
actually
did over the weekend, and yeah.
I actually have a follow-up question from our panel,
Yes.
from our audience. So if you have anyone can answer this, but if you have a player join your campaign midway through, and they have some issues or lines or rails with the content that's already been established in the campaign, how would you go about like dealing with this?
Oh,
I
that's a
think
very good question.
Yeah, do you mind if I answer real quick,
No,
or
please
someone
go
else?
for it. Yeah.
Okay. For me at least, if someone is joining an established game all the way through, before I let them join, I tell them what the game is about, and I let them know about the themes in the game, so that I can see if they're comfortable or not with joining. And then that gets rid of that problem altogether, because I try to be proactive about that, because let's say my game, currently we're dealing with themes of I don't know, childhood abandonment, right? And this person's not okay with that, and they're like, hey, can I join your game? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Here's where the game is going, here's what we're currently dealing with, how do you feel about that? And if they're not comfortable with that, I would say maybe this isn't the best time for you to join the game. But let's say you didn't have a choice. Let's say somebody gets thrown into your game, right? And they have an issue with major topics in your game. I might pause and sit everyone down and see how everyone's feeling and reevaluate then. I think it makes it really difficult if someone gets thrown in and you don't have a choice, because ideally you should be upfront about what your game is about, and let them know. Also, stream games and home games are different. Stream games, I think there's hopefully, and like this isn't required, but hopefully, if someone's looking to join a long-term stream game midway through, hopefully they will have been watching or at least generally know the plot, and then thus their excitement to join is because they want in on the story, and then there is the buy-in that you need. But yeah, I think communication is key. That is like almost every issue at a tabletop table. Any issue that comes up is usually going to be from lack of communication. So as long as you're being upfront and
True.
transparent about all that stuff, then hopefully there won't be issues.
Very true. Very true. I do have a follow-up question. How do you plan your sessions either if it's with friends versus strangers? Like, this is a question for the group. Anyone can take this.
8-bit runs a lot of Wonder Home games on the server, so maybe you want to feel this because you're often running games for like complete newbies.
So for Wonder Home has a lot of built-in safety tools. They are called journeying tools in the game, and they mesh really well with the existing system. So basically, in what we have is we have conversational tools because Wonder Home is a system that doesn't have many mechanics. 99% of the game is just having a conversation with a lot of getting inspiration from the book. So for Wonder Home, first I explain. Let me go through my process. So first, there's a safety tool called CATS. Uh, CATS stand for concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. This is how I introduce this game. This is my elevator pitch. So in the looking for game post itself, I mentioned like, C, that's concept. I pitch the game, what it's about. A is for aim, that is what are the players trying to accomplish. So Wonder Home is a game about going on a journey together. Tone is like what's the tone of the game. For me, best way to describe it is a Ghibli movie. So sometimes if you're playing a horror game, you can mention that, okay, we might be dealing with body horror or things like that. Then subject S stands for subject matter. Subject matter is basically content warnings. So for Wonder Home in specific, a content warning is that this game deals with animals and insects. So any animals or insects that players want to avoid, we can do that before the game starts itself. After that, I give like a clear definition of what people can expect from the game and what who this game is not for. Because a lot of times in our pitch, we forget that not everyone will enjoy every type of game. So I make sure like people know, uh, like if you are not a fan of these such and such, then you won't like Wonder Home. I make sure that people know about that. And afterwards, before starting the game itself, lines and veils, and specifically uh, regarding the system itself. So insects, animals, war, PTSD, things like that. I tried since I played a lot of games of Wonder Home. I generally know like what kind of topics he might go through, so I run that by the players really quick. The thing about strangers versus friends is a lot of the time you will have that feeling like, oh, this guy, this person is my friend, so I already know everything, like all their lines and veils, so I don't need to ask them again. But I think like this is a pit trap that people can fall into. Like even with our closest friends, we have no idea what is going on in their day-to-day life. Maybe they went through something bad, and maybe they don't want to experience that in the game. So go even with close friends, especially with people who you trust. Make sure that you have that uh, check in first.
Yeah, you do have to be safe with anyone. That takes me to my next question. So, how does playing online change the table dynamics from playing offline? Agent B, you want to take this?
DM'd any online games?
I think P, you're breaking up a bit because we struggling to hear you.
Yeah, we have audio issues.
Hello?
No, go for it, B.
Yeah, sorry. I haven't really GM'd any online in-person games, but I have done it a lot online. The best thing that I can think of, like, it would be easier to gauge a person's reaction or the slight nuances in case they did start to feel uncomfortable, rather than you can use safety tools online as well, but I think it would be a little easier in person to gauge a person's reaction. And also, I feel in person it is better because you can build a rapport with your players and understand their lines a little better.
Christine, you have run games offline, right? Do you want to chime in here?
About the nuances of online versus in person.
Yeah, especially in terms of table dynamics and session zeros and stuff like that.
Sure. I know that one thing that we make very clear at the beginning of a game or a campaign or however long it's going to be is the request that all players silence their phones. And how about we just make this a phone-free zone for the 2 hours or 4 hours that we're all together? Because there's really nothing worse than if you have some really good emotional scene or really cool badass combat and you look around and everybody's on their phones. They're just kind of checking and multitasking like we all do. So removing phones lets you be better present, and also and the GM kind of goes well, what do? You don't have to go, wait, what? So it's easier both in person and online if everyone is really focused. And then you'll find that the play flows better. I don't know, and everyone is just invested, because then it's you're part of this story that's unfolding.
Might I politely disagree with you for a moment?
Oh, sure.
So the only reason I used to have a no phones rule when I was GMing in person pre-pandemic. But something that I've heard from a lot of people, and the reason why I no longer do that, is because a lot of neurodivergent people find that they have to multitask in order to pay attention. And if someone were to be denied their phone, that might make them uncomfortable and might make it harder for them to pay attention, and they might just zone out.
That's a very good point.
From the other perspective, and this is why I had the rule, because I would get so discouraged as a GM, when I would be monologuing or delivering some epic pieces of lore or whatever, and I would look over and see some of my players just scrolling through their phones. But the thing is, I don't know what they're doing. They could be looking up their character stuff on D&D Beyond that they're accessing on their phone. They could be looking up their spells online, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of things someone could be doing on their phone. And so I am careful to automatically assume that someone is not paying attention, or more importantly, that they are not interested in your game. If it does become an issue where, like you said, if you if another player in character prompts somebody and somebody's on their phone and they're obviously not paying attention, and they're like, wait, what? And then everyone has to repeat sort of what's happening. If that becomes an issue, then I would talk to that player individually. But that's just something I want to put out there.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that kind of call in, not offended. That you raise a good point. That's a safer thing to do when you know your players very well. I wouldn't make that kind of demand with new people at the table, because Nala mentioned, it could be a tool that helps them during the game to focus. So it would be really ableist of me to go, put your phone away. But only
I've got a friend. Oh, go ahead.
No. I was gonna just reiterate, only to to have us a talk with them away from everyone else, because you don't want to make them feel doubly bad. So go ahead.
Yeah, accessibility is definitely the biggest concern when it comes to safety. Now you were saying something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I've got a friend that has to play games on their phone when they play games with me, and it's something I know about them, and it's something that I had pulled them aside for and was like, "Hey, it really hurts me looking over at you and seeing that you're not really paying attention." And they explained to me like, "Hey, no, I promise I'm having fun in your game. I really am. I just like I need to be doing something with my hands. Specifically during combat is when I, notice them like playing like Candy Crush or like whatever phone game they had. And I'm like and they're like, "No, I promise you I have to be doing something. Otherwise I'm not going to be paying attention at all." And I was like, "Okay, like that makes sense. Thank you for telling me." um and yeah, I haven't been able to play in person since the pandemic started, which boo hiss.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But
Oh,
I just remember like all of the intense like combats I'd be looking over, and this person's playing like whatever phone game. So many different mobile games. But yeah,
Just
that's all.
just to chime in, another thing would be to just make sure like your players are comfortable with what the expectations are, because for many people, uh, TTRPGs are a social experience and less of a game. Like in my home game, it's more of like a way for us to hang out. So very often, like we would just like stop playing the game abruptly and talk about, hey, do you remember that incident in school way back then, and totally derail the game. In other situations, it might be like, and I think most of the games run on the server. TTRPGs like is a form of a hobby for us, so we are all go in with that expectation of, yeah, we want to immerse ourselves into a world and want to engage with it. So like just having like a clear understanding of all the players are at the same page in understanding like whether it's we are just hanging out, are we expecting a grand adventure, or are we just here to crack a couple of funny jokes, because all of them are
yeah.
very valid ways of playing.
Yeah, that comes under stars and wishes again. Like just knowing like what your players are expecting from something, and being sure that you have everything laid out. Like this is what I want. This is what I want to do in the future as well. I do have a question for Indrani and Agent P. So, if a player at your table is wants to take a PC relationship with another PC, like either they want to betray them or engage in something romantic or anything, something like interpersonal, how do you make sure that it doesn't bleed into real life or out of the table?
Uh, ooh, that's good. So what I love having like really interconnected backstories or building out relationships during play. So something that I do is uh I check in. Like, I think something we should all be open about is having above table meta conversations, even if that's sometimes like, oh, it takes away from the game a little bit. That's fine. I will talk to them and be like, hey, do you think this is comfortable for you? And is that something like, because you can even tell during play that the person might be interested in it or not, and gauge what that reaction is like, but also just explicitly reach out and ask if they're open to exploring some story together, and establish what the boundaries of that looks like outside your game. So Monster Hearts, this game that Ari, you ran, had a lot of like really interpersonal connections that we all built at the table. So I would often reach out to, say, Agent P, who was my character's partner in that game, for a short while, about like how she's feeling and if they're okay with where the sort of story is going, what they want out of it. Again, having above table conversations, but when it comes to making sure it doesn't bleed out of the game, that's a matter of trust. That's not something you can necessarily like know beforehand, but it's something that should be, um like, if I'm entering this in-game space that is more vulnerable than just simply role playing with someone, I have to have a level of trust for that person even out of the game, even if it's like someone I've met for like a one shot streamed game. It's kind of having that out of character trust and out of character conversations, so that everything that happens at the table in game is agreed upon, or at least like it doesn't seem like a curveball to the other person. And should it happen where, like, it seems like it's bleeding out of the game, um depending on my comfort level with the person, I'll either reach out to them or the GM. And I know that's a tricky situation to put the GM in, but they can often be the best mediators, and that's a little bit of emotional labor. But depending on my dynamic with these people, I will uh, involve the GM or not, and sort of be like, hey, this is the vibe I was getting. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, but let's talk about it. I think conversation and communication is often the answer to these kind of things, but that's me.
True, true. Um, P, I want to ask very specifically that you run the telenovela RPG, right? Uh, how do you deal with like the relationships inside something like that? Like that's a very family dependent, like relationship interpersonal dependent RPG. Like how do you deal with the bleed not going out, especially because you play with strangers?
After a session that has like heavy interpersonal drama, I check in with everyone, make sure that they're comfortable, and if they don't want to continue a certain character hook or character plot regarding another player, I take that into account and I kind of divert it into a situation where they are comfortable. And I do tend to talk to both players if they're comfortable with whether they're comfortable or uncomfortable with the situation. And if one person's uncomfortable, I just let the other person know, and we kind of move on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because there is like a whole character that's just has two people pining after them, and which can get a little tricky if if the other two are also playable characters. So I like to make sure everyone is okay and everything's going smoothly. And if someone has any qualms about the stuff that's been going on in game, um, I make sure they reach out to me, or I hope they do reach out to me.
Yeah, that's like Indrani said, post-session check-ins are like super important for this. But that does bring me to my next point. Like, so GMs are also players in this. Like, you do have NPCs and you do have interpersonal relationship with the PCs. So how do you assert the fact that you are also a person at the table and that you have a say in the narrative and everything? Christine, you want to take this?
Yes. I say that like a question. I think one of the important things when you are a GM at the table is like listening to your players so that it doesn't seem like you have a carved in stone narrative that if your player goes right when you're thinking, okay, they're going to go left. You know what I mean? That I'm going to be all over the page here, but there's nothing worse than having a DM that is railroading you to go to the tavern when, everything points to your character maybe not going there. So one of the good ways to kind of, I think, to assert that your GM is also a player is to remember what it's like to be a player and to just imagine yourself as having a conversation with that PC. Not that you're the DM, because one of the fun things we know about being a DM and having the screen is that you have to be prepared with like 6 different, choose your own adventures to where's the player going to go, and you have to be prepared for it. And just the best way is listen to the player so that you are yourself as like a player. I know that probably isn't a great explanation for it, but that's how I do it. And it's the easiest way I have found to be a player while still DMing the game.
I'm just gonna
Can I
say
chime in?
in chat, let your GM do the villain monologue. I said it in chat too, but the GM is a player
It's
too.
very
And
valid.
like
Yes.
This has never happened to me because luckily I've been lucky enough to have players that respect me as the GM and understand that, I'm here to have fun too. But it hurts hearing from other friends that, they've prepared like this really cool monologue and the players just interrupt them. And that makes me really sad because like the GM, wants to have fun too and let their villains monologue. You can kill them after, but I saw a tweet somewhere where someone put it like, think about it this way, like the GM is saying goodbye to their character, right? So let them do that. And at the end of the day, the goal is for everyone to have fun and to tell a really cool story together. And everyone should be helping everyone do that. And that I don't know, just like Christine was saying, like listening to each other is so important. And that's just like improv lesson number one is, listen and yes and or no but and all of those like basic improv principles. And I don't know, like something that I like about other games is when when the onus of world building doesn't fall entirely on the GM, where it's more collaborative. I really like that because then it involves everyone else, and then
Yeah.
it's not up to the GM to create this fun experience for everyone else. It's more even, where players get more of a narrative stakes and more narrative say. And I like games.
Yeah,
like that because-
collaborative. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
exactly. Yeah.
Collaborative storytelling is the best. That's why I love PBTA
Exactly.
games so much.
Yeah,
but
Mhm. Yeah, go ahead. Actually, I'm going to start rambling if I
No.
start talking about this, so I will stop.
No. We love listening. No worries. I actually have on the flip side to this. If you have a player who is not suited to your table at all, or in worst cases they are harmful to other players, how would you deal with this? Indrani, you want to take this?
Yes. I think it's one of the most uncomfortable experiences to be in a game that you don't want to be in, because there is one person who is like a thorn in your side. It is an awful experience, and I'm sorry for anybody who's had to deal with that. I think the first thing I would do if I was on the receiving end of this sort of thing is consider where it falls. Is this discomfort that is personal outside of the game? Is it something that, like, oh, I just don't vibe with this person, I don't like them? That's fine, very valid. um or is it something that, oh, they're doing something in the game that is crossing my boundaries, that's like, uncomfortable to be in? Those are two different situations, and I think it's important to first look internally and realize which one it is. Like, if it is, it just like, hey, I don't vibe with this person, but they're not necessarily doing something at the table that is harmful. Like, you just don't like them, that's one thing. But if it's the latter, that's when it's, I think, a conversation to be had with your GM. Let them know that, hey, these are my lines and veils that are being crossed, or like, for whatever reason, this person is making me super uncomfortable, and see how that can be handled.
Yeah.
If you're the GM and you're getting someone saying this to you, what I would do in this situation is hear them out, talk to the other person, and be like, hey, these are the things that are being raised by member from our party. If you could please, you know like, be mindful of these things, that would be great. And you can, like, people can often gauge how other people respond to things, right? Like, if someone's open to accepting that, hey, I've made someone uncomfortable, and I'm being asked to do better, and can be like, hey, I'm sorry, I'll work on this, it won't happen again, great, give them another shot. If they're like immediately defensive, or don't want to hear you out, or whatever that looks like, right? Whatever this defensiveness looks like, you feel like they're going to continue being a problem player, it is extremely important for you to protect yourself and the remaining players at the table and be like, hey, maybe this isn't working out, step away. And it might seem like a drastic thing to do, but I think the way people take feedback and criticism is probably a good indicator of how they'll continue to behave in the future. So I'm always a person who would first want to figure things out. And if it doesn't work, then just, say your goodbyes, part ways. That's
Yeah.
valid. They'll find another table to play at. You'll continue playing at
Yeah,
your
of course.
table, and it'll be better
Yeah.
for everybody involved. So,
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
very true.
uncomfortable as it might be, saying no and asking someone to leave is a skill that every GM should, at least, I hope they never have to use it, but it is an important thing to know, I would say.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
Can I
Something.
Saying
chime
no.
in?
Or, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say like TTRPGs are the opposite of pizza. Like it's better to play in zero TTRPGs than to play in a bad TTRPG.
100%. It is better not to play a TTRPG than to play a bad one. So
Yeah, no game is better than a bad game.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
it's
Yep.
because the sad thing is, right, something like this could be someone's first experience with tabletop role playing games, and you continue doing it, it'll feel like this is how all games go. And I have seen people who've just not played tabletop role playing games for years because they had one bad experience with some dude bro that they played D&D with 10 years ago. And I'm like,
Mhm.
give it another shot. Maybe you'll like it more this time. That person was just an asshole. Do you know what I mean?
May I
Preach.
add something?
Yeah, go for it, please.
I think because like this discussion gets really into some really, really complicated table dynamics, which is what we're here to talk about. Yay,
Yeah.
go us. And like I think this is one of the most difficult things, specifically if you are the GM and another player approaches you like midway through like a 12 episode season, that another player at the table is, it's just not working out. What do you do? Right? Because it's a bit too late for, like we're a bit past the stars and wishes and the session zero. Because something that I highly encourage everyone to do is to be very clear that even after the session zero, you can pull out of the game, no questions asked. Because sometimes I show up to a session zero and the vibes are off. Let me tell you, the vibes are off. And I'm speaking specifically from the
Been there.
perspective of someone who's an actual play stream performer, where I am playing games usually paid for an audience. And, when you play for an audience, that's a totally different thing. And I actually did a whole panel on that, which I can link later if someone reminds me. But like the difference between playing for an audience versus just playing a home game is very large in this aspect. But anyways, I have always felt really safe on channels and with people where the GM makes it very clear, like, hey, we're going to do a session zero. And this is after you've seen the cast, after you've vetted everybody, after you're like, yes, this group of people looks good. There's no one, problematic or whatever, but just people I don't vibe with, like in this cast, like I'm down to play with all these people. You show up to session zero, you do your session zero, and the vibes are off. And it doesn't even have to be something as drastic as this person is crossing my line or this person has crossed my line. It could just be vibes, and that's valid. Like, go with your gut, because like we all just said, no game is better than a bad game. And so making it very clear, like, yes, you can leave after session zero. If it isn't working out, you can leave, no questions asked. But let's say we're past that point, right? Let's say it's a 12 episode season. You're about to, do episode 7, episode 6 just finished, and you get a message. What the hell do you do about this? I would just try to talk to people. I mean, this is going to be the answer for like anything. Communication is key. And I might see if the problem player is aware that they're doing something that, might be, being off-putting for someone. Hopefully during the stars and wishes at the end of the game, you can, put wishes that might direct things back towards being on track. I think like one of the most common things I can foresee happening is maybe a player feeling like another player is always interrupting them. Because I feel like that's something that a lot of people, if that happens to you, you just
Yeah,
kind of
huge
swallow.
issue in like online games as well. Like you have no idea when who's playing and who's talking, and it's really difficult to like even gauge if that was done maliciously or not.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it helps to like at the end of the day, it helps to have a table of people that you feel comfortable voicing concerns with. And
Yeah.
hopefully the person on the receiving end is mature enough to do some self-reflection, and maybe the GM or someone can gently tell them like, hey, you interrupt people a lot, so can you be a little more mindful of that, please? And, at least for myself, like
Yeah.
if I heard that, I would be like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I will definitely be more mindful of that. Because it can be
Yeah,
hurtful
of
to hear
course.
stuff like that, but,
Yeah.
communication is key. And the person who is the problematic person might not
Mhm.
even be aware that they're doing something. So sometimes just telling them will fix the problem. And that is
Yeah, for sure.
scary to do,
Mhm.
but yeah, that would be my advice for this.
Yeah.
I
I have a follow-up question. Oh, do you want to say something, Christine?
very quickly. I will just
Sure.
say this very quickly. We had an instance in our game, a long-running D&D campaign, where a husband and wife were playing together, and she had not played D&D for a very long time, and she picked it up very quickly. And her husband was the type of person who, liked to kind of armchair quarterback everybody's, plays during combat like you do. But he was Australian, and everyone thought it was cool, and no one, took it to heart. But we could see, the wife, kind of her tolerance meter redder and redder, and we're just like, okay. And basically, went to the DM, who happened to be my partner, and I'm like, you're gonna step in here? And he's just like, I don't want to take the agency away from her by white knighting. I'm gonna see like how far it's going to go. Not in a terrible way, like she needs to handle it herself. But basically the only way the husband stopped doing it was our DM finally said, if you interrupt another player or you feel the need to tell them what they need to do, you're either going to do one of two things. You're going to lose a healing surge, or going to make you roll like 2d6 damage. Right? That was the way he shut it down at the table, because everybody understood it was a don't tell other people what they're going to do, because some people might be, especially for D&D, some people might be going, oh, I'm going to do A and B and C and it's going to look really cool. And it sucks when someone goes, oh, you should totally do this. And you're just like, meh. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah, being
don't
told what
endorse
to
that as,
do. Yeah, it's
isn't
not
fun.
fun. Yeah, even as a GM, being told what to do or like telling players what to do is like such a big no-no. But I do have a question for P. You take stars and wishes from players, right? So what do you do if they change their minds later on? Like if they have some other thing they want to try out, and what do you do, especially if it clashes with something you already have?
My best to modify anything that I can, because I do want to make sure everyone is having a good time, a comfortable time. So my best thing would be like talking to, if it affects another player and their story or arc, I talk to them about it, or I make any necessary changes that I need to make in the current plot line that could accommodate their wishes.
Yeah, very fair. I also want to ask one more thing. For anyone here, how do you maintain energy in long campaigns? Like, it does take some level of commitment from both players and GMs to do this, but how do you like do what part of like GMing that you bring in to keep the players interested or like excited about your own games?
I have a quick answer for this.
Shoot, a comedic answer.
Okay, comedy first. You go first.
Musical episode. Just have all the players just have a musical episode, no matter how bad it is.
Oh my god,
Amazing.
that's incredible.
Should we
Okay,
do a
so
musical panel?
Yeah,
I
no.
would be
What a great way to
down.
wrap it up. I would love that.
I am a baritone. I am here.
I will harmonize with you, Nala.
Hell yeah. Okay, so I have a couple quick answers actually now that I've had time to gave time for my ADHD brain to think. Number one, having overarching plot points. This seems like a well, duh, but some people don't think about this. Like, but if you want to do a long-term campaign, having a big overarching plot is really useful in keeping players engaged. And every session or every episode. I should mention really quickly, when I GM, I think of myself as creating a TV show where there are scenes within each episode, which is a session, and every session is an episode, and these episodes are linked together to make seasons. And each season is one mostly completed story arc. Because if you look at any TV show that you like, they're going to have similar narrative structure, and I find that that's a very good way to upkeep energy in long-term games, is think of them like TV shows. Other things, keeping your players engaged by involving the plot with their backstories. That keeps the energy up and all of that stuff, and also just making sure you're doing check-ins and making sure that the players are engaged with their story, they're interested in where it's going, and they want to find out more, because we all know that scheduling is the true big bad of every tabletop table everywhere. Finding a time that 4 to 7 people can meet at the same time is more difficult than you think. So making being something as simple as making sure your game is something that people are really excited about means
Yeah.
that they will prioritize it and make time for it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I
Yes,
had
in chat.
my
My name
Monster
is
Heart.
Nala, like the Lion King.
Sure. Yeah, I've had Monster Heart literally some players had games before the session, and they all made time to come every single time, and it just made me so enthusiastic about completing the campaign as well, which is a really cool thing to happen to a GM. I have our last question. Christine, do you want to take this? Do you have any? I mean, anyone can answer it, obviously. Do you have any practical tips for managing table dynamics, like how to manage spotlight or how to read table, taking breaks, and keeping players who are outside of the current spotlight engaged, and how to make players care about their own pieces and the world and stuff like that? Just a very broad question to throw at the very end.
Sure. I think maybe if it's making notes for yourself, but always remember to kind of rotate your spotlight on each player and have those stories interlock. It's funny that I heard Nala talk about running games like a story or like a television. We do the same thing. We're just like, ooh, the audience at home is freaking out. Twitter's blowing up because this character did this. It's like a running joke that we like to think of people watching us, that the faceless masses that are enjoying the angst and the combat or whatever we're doing. So remembering to highlight each player, doing things like I don't know, not spending too much time on one storyline and just trying to make things interconnect, because that really really holds players' attentions, and they'll want to know more. They'll be like, oh, that little seed was laid 6 episodes ago. The DM is a god. Just stuff like that. Just leaving breadcrumbs for your players, and then seeing their little light bulb go on when they go, oh, and you're just like, ha ha ha! I planned this all along.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I chime in?
Yeah, for sure. Go.
So a practical way to manage spotlight is to make your scenes specific. So if for example, you want to highlight your paladin player, then set up a scene that all the players are aware that, oh, this is for a paladin, and what this results in is that the paladin player will know that, okay, this is for me, and they'll have a good idea of when that spotlight on them needs to end, because a scene will obviously have a natural ending. The problem with sharing spotlights often is due to a player keeps on rambling because they're not sure when the scene starts and when the scene ends. So if you set a specific scene like, hey, your god gives you a sign, how do you react to this? Then the player is made aware, oh, okay, I know that this is for me. I know when this is starting and when this is ending. So they do not start to ramble and the spotlight switches very naturally.
That's a very valid point. Like making it specific is like very helpful, even for the GM, just to keep like track of what's happening where and everything. Uh, Anything else? Anyone else want to say something?
I think these folks covered it all.
Awesome. That brings us to the end of the panel. Thank you so much for coming. I know we can stay and chill in this chat. But that was amazing. I learned way too much, and I really hope all the new GMs who are like listening and who will listen later also get some value from all of this. I do want to say though, we have a Blades of Yonta campaign running on Desis&Dragons YouTube channel. It is super awesome. It's set in India. It's mech and it is amazing. Go catch the finale tomorrow and catch up on YouTube before that. I also want to thank every single person from all of the panels so far and also all of the audience for coming here, doing, asking questions, participating, and doing everything you can to make this a success. And we really, really hope it has, inspired at least a few people to GM now, or at least a few people to, better their games or find some new inspiration or anything like that. And finally, I really want to thank Shiva so much for organizing all of this and all the hard work he has done here. He's amazing. So, if you want to say something as your closing statement, or if you want to promote something, please go ahead. Nala?
Hello, everybody. I have been Nala or Jay. I use they, them. You can find me on Twitter at NalaWoo and at NalaDraws. If you'd like to see my art, I'm a professional illustrator and art director. I work in tabletop full time. Besides that, I'm also a voice actor, sensitivity reader, and cultural consultant, TTRPG content creator, and actual play stream performer. If you'd like to see me play in some games, let's see. Today, I am on a 5th edition Call of the Netherdeep game called Visions of Gold that is streamed on the Lady May's channel, Lore Everlasting. That is at 3 p.m. today, which is in 2 hours from now for time zones. And then this Saturday, I'm playing an Avatar Legends stream called Avatar Reclamations. We are in our season 2 right now, and that game is Saturdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And then last but not least, next Monday, assuming nothing goes haywire, will be the finale of the Doctor Who game that I'm on. It's called Doctor Who: The Many Hearts Project, also streamed on the Lady May's channel. But the best place to find out all of this stuff, I know everyone everyone wants links. Just follow my Twitter. That's where I'm going to post all of the information and all of that stuff. The best place to get stay up with all the stuff that I'm doing is my Twitter. I just want to thank you all for having me here today and for this really good discussion. And yeah, I had a lot of fun, and I'm also down if anyone has any questions, follow-up questions about anything I've said or any of us have said. I'm sure everyone else is. I don't want to speak for people, but like I'm sure would be down to answer questions after the fact. At least I am, so feel free to ping me in here or message me on Twitter, although I think I'd prefer Discord because Twitter eats my messages all the time. So yeah, just ping me on here. I'm happy to talk with anybody about this stuff. And yeah, thanks again for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. We will keep these discussions open for at least another week. We're going to post these discussions on YouTube and let people ask questions. So if you just want to hang out and answer some questions, you can do that as well. Up to you. Thank you so much. Indrani, you want to say something?
Oh shit, yeah, yes. Hello, everybody. I am Indrani. My pronouns are she, they, and not she, gay, but also that is also accurate. You can find me on the internet as at Nonagon Dice. I'm a handmade dice maker. I also stream TTRPGs, no, not nearly as much as Nala. And I am one of the co-founders of Desis&Dragons. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us not only today, but for all the amazing panels we've had so far. And shout out to Siva, who's our Nick Fury / our mod, for bringing your beat together for this. Shout out to Ari, 8-Bit, Shubham, and even Legs, who isn't here, I think, right now, for all the logistics and production work behind this. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Yeah.
Also, thanks to Chirag.
Oh, Chirag also.
Amazing. So smooth. We know who's working here. Christine, you want to take this away?
Oh, sure. Christine, she, her. You can find me pretty much anywhere online at German City Girl. Or you can find me tweeting for Big Bad Con or tweeting for Bully Pulpit Games on both of their social media, and director of panel programming at Geek Girl Con. Our convention's coming up in November. First time in person in 2 years, so that's a little anxiety inducing.
Gonna be great.
Oh, I hope so. I can't wait also to go to Big Bad Con. That's in November. And the last thing I'd like to do is, one, thank all the other panelists. You guys are all amazing. And that I would like to acknowledge that I live and work on the unceded traditional land of the Coast Salish people, including the Duwamish people, both past and present.
Thank you.
And I'm done talking.
Amazing.
Awesome. Love that. Pete, you want closing statements?
She did pronouns. You can find me on Twitter. The only thing I want to promote is my game on this server called La Rosa Querida. It's a telenovela-based game, and the finale is happening soon. If you want to catch up on the drama, there is a thread. And that's all. It was wonderful being on this panel. It was my first panel. I had so much fun. Thank you to Shiva and Ari, our beautiful mods. I hope you guys have a good evening.
Agent P has a crochet store called Sue Strange. It's amazing.
Promote you, Strange. Do it now.
Damn, please.
I have a crochet account called So Strange, where I crochet little trinkets that are available for sale. Go and check it out on Instagram. It's at So Strange Store.
Amazing. 8-Bit, do you want to share some more about your home?
Of course. So you all know why I'm here. Yes, it's Wonder Home time. You guys ever want to play Wonder Home? Just ping me. I'll run it for you anytime, anywhere.
What's
Wonder Home is fantastic. No. So, yeah. Join the server. We have a lot of fun things planned ahead. And check out So Strange. Its spelling is SEWSTRANGE. So you can check that on Instagram properly. And yeah, thanks for joining us. Hope you learned something. This was fun.
It was a really, really good chat, and I had a lot of fun talking with all of you. Thank you so much for being here, both the audience and panelists. I think we're done. Yay!
Amazing. I'm clapping, but I don't think my mic is picking that up. But
I'm pretty sure my mic is picking up all of my background noise instead of just my voice.
Amazing. Thank
My
you
mic
so
is
much,
not getting my
everybody.
clapping either.
There you go.
This is awesome. Thank you so much. This was such an amazing chat to have.
Folks, if you enjoyed the panels we did this week and want us to do more, just let us know. And we'll also, I think, be sending out a feedback form, I think. I don't want to say. But yeah, if you have any feedback on how we can do things better, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll also be putting that form up for anybody who wants to give anonymous feedback and all of that. So thank you so much once again. Yeah, you guys make this community what it is. So thank you.